Hi, I'm Gavin.
And I'm Guilain.
I'm Tay.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Pei. We are the Light and Dark group. So our game is a puzzle survival game. We have to collect various keys to unlock doors to proceed. The building is infested with zombies, and we have to use 3D audios to try to make our way through them. And there's also a light and dark system, which make the player feel helpless. So in the original game pitch, they have traps to lure zombies. We took out that aspect and just focus on light and dark. The lights will flicker between light and dark, and the player has to run in the dark and hide the light so the zombies can't see them.
Our development process started by splitting works evenly into individual bits. Works generally came out to be split into camera movement, implementing 3D audio, setting up zombie behavior, and UI or UX. We had weekly, bi-weekly individual sprints for game designs and implementations. As the deadline approached, we started to work more closely together to refine details, and play testings have been done consistently after the second meeting. Based on those play tests, we've made our final tweaks to the game.
The next step in the development process was play testing. We got several different individuals to play through our game and tell us what they liked and what they didn't like. One of the first things we noticed was that they constantly said the player speed was too fast and the zombies were too slow. So we changed that around, so now the zombies are much faster and the player is a lot slower. Next, we noticed that the player health, they had way too much health. And it was pretty easy to beat the game, so we wanted to make it a little bit harder, a little more difficult to beat it. So we took the health down from 5 hits down to about 3 hits to kill the player. Next, we changed the zombie pathing and layout. The zombies would constantly get stuck on certain objects or things within the game. So we changed it around so that way they don't look as laggy or clingy, and they can move freely through the game. The next thing that we were told to change was the player vision. It was really hard to see in the dark, and players couldn't find their way around. So we made it so the fog and the darkness wasn't as bad, so that way the players could see a little bit further in the dark. And finally, the players were having difficulty finding all the key cards within the game. They didn't know where to go, so we added some little contextual and visual clues, so that way the players could see where they needed to go and what they were looking for.
We created the game in Unity and used RealSpace 3D audio by Vivisonics to implement the 3D audio for our game. As for the AI implementation, most of it is found in the AI for our infected. We use a state machine to control whether the AI should be patrolling, chasing the player, or investigating various sounds it hears, such as the player's movement or a rock that the player throws. Pathfinding and collision detection / avoidance is implemented to ensure that the zombies move around correctly and can intelligently track the player around the level. We also use trigger systems in the game that are triggered when the player reaches certain areas. These triggers help to progress the story of the game and create unique events.
And now I'm going to go over the demo portion of the presentation and explain some of the implementations we've done and what you'd expect if you played our game. And so our title screen actually looks really cool, and it's super eerie and stuff. And we've hit it, it's very simple. You can either quit out immediately or start playing. So obviously, we're going to start playing. So this takes us into our first scene, which is a very small room, and it's going to very quickly get dark. So our main mechanic here is that there's two states, light and dark. And in the light stage, we want the player to be afraid because enemies will be able to see them and thus attack them more easily. But in the dark stage, the player will be able to hide and evade any sort of predation. So some of the few really important things we had to implement in order to create this game is some sort of trigger system in order to interact with objects and to also create events in the environment. So for example, one such trigger is when you get close to certain objects, it'll create a little UI telling you what you can do. So in this case, I'm going to try opening this door. But it's locked, so we have to try to either find a key or find some other way of doing it. So I'm going to try going through this door. But it's also locked. So that means I have to look around this room to see what we have around. So if I look over here, there's a rock on the ground. If I get close, I can pick it up. You can carry it around, and then you can use it. So how the rock works is that you're able to throw it, and then any enemy nearby will hear it and then become attracted to it. And then, so we could use this rock as a way of distracting zombies away from you and to make safe passage wherever you need to go. And another important item that we will weapon is a key. So you just take a key, you go to the correct door, which turns out is not this one, but in fact this one. And it will open. As for the player movement, you've seen that we can look in every direction. You're able to crouch, walk around like that, stand back up, and you're able to walk in any direction. And importantly, you can run in order to escape from your pursuers. So I'm just going to run down this hall real quick. So the reason there's different types of walking speed is because depending on the type of movement you're doing, it'll attract zombies from different distances. So for example, if you run, it'll attract many zombies to you because everyone can hear you running. If you walk, it'll only attract certain ones that are near you, and if you crouch, not many will be able to hear you, and then you can get around more easily. But at the same time, you get around much more slowly. So we're going to enter this room now, which as soon as you turn the light, you'll see it's filled with zombies. And then one of our first triggers is actually in this room. So if we walk forward, it'll trigger 2 of the zombies to start walking towards us. And here they come. So this is to incentivize the player to start fearing the zombies, to start avoiding them, and to even try with the rock. Sometimes though, the zombies know where you are, and they will immediately start following you. So then it becomes a game of cat and mouse of trying to evade them. So I'm just going to start running to get away. After a while, the zombies will lose interest, and then they'll start roaming in their typical pattern. So I'm just going to go back in here to reset them effectively. And as you heard, the zombies are very loud. And how this works is that when the player is nearby, if they have headphones, they can use 3D audio, which will tell them where in relation to the player the zombie is without having to actually see them. Which in this case is very useful because it's very hard to see. Oh, I just attracted a zombie. So it will follow you until it gets you. So I'm going to let it reset again to show you another area. And again, you can hear them trying to chase us. See, it's gotten quiet, so we know the zombie's no longer here. So if I open the door, there's nothing here. So now I'm going to quickly show you the effects of how throwing a rock will attract zombies to that area. Once it becomes light, I'm going to throw it, and then you'll see that they'll be attracted to that area. I'm going to throw it, and bam. The 2 zombies, where it landed, it created noise, and they're walking towards it now. And you can use this to distract them in order to run away and look in other areas. Obviously. And we've created a small little cavern in order to escape the zombies and get a brief respite in case the player's feeling very stressed. There's also included some little interesting details, such as maybe a survivor came in, got hurt, and then left a message on the wall to escape as soon as possible. And we've also hid certain items in here too, such as this green key card, which normally the player wouldn't find. Initially, the idea is that they would try to get through the wall first, to the door first, not be able to, and then start looking for the green key card, which you can tell by the opening of the door. And those are the pieces of our game. So, I'm going to die now, and whatever. Thank you.